All right, so I'll call on you one at a time to give us a brief introduction. If you could let us know your name, the program you graduated from, whether you're a master's or a PhD student or both, your current title and employer, and then what you enjoy most about your job. So Elise, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Elise Covert. I am a 2022 master's grad, and I'm currently a biostatistician with IQVIA, which is a clinical research organization. And I've been here since I graduated, so almost 4 years, which is crazy. And I think the thing that I enjoy most about my job, I work on clinical trials. And so it's really cool every day working, knowing that you could play some small part in a breakthrough that really impacts the lives of patients. I do, especially a lot of oncology trials. And that means a lot to me personally. So knowing that you can have that impact, with the work that you do is really special.
Thank you, Elise. Lily, how about your next?
Yeah, I just want to add, like I also did some oncology study when I was doing internship, which is very cool. Hi everyone, my name is Lily. I'm currently a data scientist at Google, particularly the YouTube team. My current title is senior data scientist. So I graduated from the biostat department, yeah, your department, PhD program 2020. And yeah, so what's the other question? Oh, the exciting part of my work. Yeah. So as I said, I like doing oncology studies, but later I also find some exciting interest in tech that I'm currently working on. So I'm building metric platforms, implementing methodologies into real internal tools. So I think the most exciting part of this job is I'm able to see things that's not just methodology, that publishing paper, but also can see some tools or some platforms, metric platforms that's been built based on that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lily. Hamden, you're next.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Hamdan Uzner. I graduated with my MS in Biostats in 2010. I'm currently a staff data scientist at Cash App. I think what I love about my role and just being a data scientist in industry in general is being able to work on such a vast array of problems. Like I've done work with all teams, essentially trying to understand our customers, trying to understand their needs, trying to understand their behavior. So getting to work across finance, marketing, compliance, investor relations, like at the end of the day, it's all data. And I think that's one of the powerful things about being a data scientist. And, really love the field, really grateful for my time at the University of Michigan and, really fantastic department and excited to speak with you all and be of service to you.
Thank you. Taylor.
Good afternoon. I'm Taylor. I graduated in 2020 with my master's from the Biostats department, and since then I've been working as a genomics bioinformatics analyst, crazy long, weird title, for the Arizona Department of Health Services. So I think what I like most about what I do is the fact that I'm working on genomics. That's what I did at UMich. I really enjoyed it there, and finding an opportunity to keep working on it was something I was really looking forward to. And I was able to find it here in Arizona, plus the fact that I'm from Arizona and I'm working for the government, I'm working with real data, and I like really being in touch with what's going on in my community. And this job is one of the ways that I can stay aware of like everything that's happening in Arizona while also trying to serve the community at the same time.
Great, thank you. Yuna, we saved the best for last year.
Yeah, my name is Yuna, who I graduated from the Biostat PhD program in 2012, actually one of the older ones among here. So currently I'm a science manager at Amazon.com. So I work on the shopping side. If you go to the app, if you see there's this conversational layer, and when you are on a detail on a product page, and then you ask question about whether this product is waterproof, how long does it last, what's the historical price. That's the application that I do here. So what is most exciting about the job is I think as Taylor was saying, like it's data, like in the end of the day, it's all data. On top of it, there's algorithm, like things that we learned in school or at job. So you combine both of them and to solve like real life problem. And what is more important is that you actually get to see like the engagement from customer, and then you have like really fast feedback to what you have invented and developed. Yeah, this is very interesting and cool.
Great, thank you so much. So we've got a vast variety here of jobs, which is really exciting to hear about. And so I'm just curious, Hamdan, if you could say, like, what does your typical day look like working for Cash App? Well, I don't know, we lost your sound. No, you're not muted. Did it choose a different mic?
Now?
Oh yeah, now we can hear you.
That's
Yep,
good.
you're good. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think a typical day for me usually, so there are long-term projects I'm working on. So, for example, currently one of the projects I'm working on is trying to understand the impact of our compliance controls on our financial outcomes. So on Cash App, we have a lot of controls to make sure you're not a bad actor. So trying to figure out how does this impact our profit? How successful are we in being able to catch bad actors? What's the false negative, the false positive rate of these controls? So this is like one of the longer term projects I'm working on. And then day to day, I get inquiries from, senior leadership, from folks around. Like a typical question could be, we saw Bitcoin usage drop 10% last week. What do you think is going on? And then that kicks off some investigations. And yeah, I would say it's a very good mix of working in data and then also working very closely with other people to chase down answers to hard business questions that have strategic importance for the company. And then practically what that means is I'm usually in Snowflake, which is where our data is stored. So just writing SQL, and then I'll often pull data out of Snowflake into R or Python if I want to do more advanced statistical modeling or data visualization. So that's my day-to-day pretty much.
Really interesting. Taylor, I imagine your day-to-day might be a little different working for a Department of Health. What does that look like?
Actually, it's funny you asked. It's kind of similar to Honda. Yeah, so I mean, the health department's a bit different. So I'm mostly remote now. I used to be in office, and I kind of work jointly between like we have our main health department and then we have our state lab. So they're two separate buildings, and I have access to both. In the lab, they do the sequencing of our specimens, and then on the other side, they've got all the other functionality working. So depending on the day, I'll do a little bit more of one side's work or a little bit more of the other side's work. Sometimes it's more doing genomics projects, like there'll be outbreaks, of course. I'm sure you all are aware of measles right now. So that's one of the things that's like a project that I have to work on in conjunction with some other state departments. As well as, again, like if there's questions from upper management supervisors about things going down with different diseases. In the analyst role, it's my job to tackle those questions. And we also are on Snowflake, yeah, doing lots of SQL, which is fun. So for the last year, actually, my daily has been migrating our data systems. So we had a bunch of databases, and we just recently got started up on Snowflake. So I've had to run a whole bunch of SQL. It's been pretty diverse, though. Like I said, it just kind of depends on the political climate as well of like what's popped up and what challenges that we're currently facing.
The first I've heard of Snowflake. Lily and you all were nodding along. Do you also use Snowflake?
No. Snowflake is one of the competitor. I use AWS. Imagine Lily uses Google Cloud, right?
We use some internal version of BigQuery. But I think those platforms kind of share some similarity. I'd suggest students try using all of them for the interview if you really.
Thing. Elise, what about your day? Is it similar to what's been said? No.
I don't use Snowflake or SQL actually in my role. But essentially, my work is project based, and so I'm working on several different trials at once, probably on any given day, like four I'm assigned to. Um, and my typical day kind of depends on where in the trial life cycle each of those projects is. So, at the beginning of studies, the biostatistician will help provide input to the case report forms, so our like data collection forms, and making sure the database is designed to collect data from patients in the trial that is fit for our analysis. And then a big portion of what I do is designing analysis, so writing statistical analysis plans and developing like templates for tables and data listings that will be um, there that will be the output at the end of the study. And so making sure all of that is pre-planned. That's a big part of my role. And then, as the trial goes on, I'm like running data quality checks, working with data management teams and clinical teams to make sure that the data quality is good. And then actually at the end of the study, executing the analysis. So I actually work with a team of programmers who do a lot of the statistical programming, but on my end, I program a lot of like custom quality checks and things to make sure that the outputs reflect what's actually in the data. And then those outputs get sent on to regulatory agencies to make decisions about drugs. So there's like a whole span of things that I do. My studies could be at various points, and so on any given day, I can be kind of anywhere in that cycle.
And at least what software are you using?
So we mostly program in SAS here because that's in a regulated space, the most well accepted. But we're incorporating more R now. So some of my checks I will program in R, and that's actually what I'm most familiar with from my time in school. So,
Yeah. Great. Well, Lily, you said that you worked on oncology trials or you had interest in oncology, but now, you're doing YouTube things. So what interested you about making that jump to industry or tech? And what keeps you in that type of job?
Yeah, I think like firstly, I didn't lose the interest in oncology for sure. I really like what I did in the internship project, but I want to point out that we are data scientists or statisticians. We are solving data problems. So as long as there's a need for data problem solvers, I think we should be ready, especially in industry. Like the data scientist role can be the need can change it a lot between teams. So I find it particularly interest in YouTube team is because the data has many different forms. For example, it can have like text data in terms of description, comments, and it can also have some other types of data like whether the video has some quality issues, etc. So you can see many different types of data there. So that make me really interested in working on the YouTube data at this moment. Yeah.
Really great. What about for you? Have you always been in the industry sector? And what is it that
So I was in genomics as well. Started as in the regular clinical trial, regular biostat, and went into genomics. I think in my entire life I was driven by technology. Like I'm really curious in like how the latest technology works. So back then, there was no data science, right? Like the genomics is like the 1,000 Genome Project, and all that has the most data, like among a lot of the other projects. So was really curious how like big data work, and went into genomics, and then I did a short postdoc in Berkeley, UC Berkeley, but the data wasn't as much as in genomics. It was population genetics. It's more like equations and all that. And then Berkeley is like sitting in Silicon Valley, and there was a lot of opportunity to talk to people in industry. And then I was introduced to a position in 23andMe. It was also genetics, but I worked in 23andMe for 2 years. It was very interesting. I actually was able to publish paper there. But later on, I felt like, it's in Silicon Valley, like you talk to people, I felt like the technology was like behind. So then I joined Amazon and, started to look more into machine learning, deep learning, and all that. In my current team, we do a lot of AI. So I, interact with cloud code a lot of the time. I do the analysis. You just prompt it. It'll actually do the analysis, make the plot and all that. So I barely use R, Python anymore. I just like interact with cloud code. My day-to-day job, using AI tools to do some of the analysis that I need to do some of the writing that I need to do. Right now, as a manager, I do a lot of like the high level, like help team review their work and track status of the project, and at the same time keep up with the latest AI technology, which is exhausting because it's moves so fast.
Yeah, wow, it's really interesting. What about Hamdan? What class from UMich Biostat have you used the most, or do you think that students should definitely not miss out on?
Yeah, I would give two answers. I think one, I think it's what we take in our first semester. It's our basic introduction to regression linear models. I think that's really a core skill set I've used throughout my career. I'm not saying I use it every day or even every week in my current job, but I think it definitely is a very solid foundation towards how to think about data and understanding data sets. And then I would also credit the capstone course, which I think was really fantastic way of, for my capstone course, I wrote a survey, I collected a bunch of responses, and I analyzed that, which I think is pretty simple. You guys probably do much more complicated things now, but for me, it was a really fantastic practical project. It was a small project, got to collect data, present it, find patterns, insights, and that really was the template for pretty much everything I've done in my career. It's just finding data, finding insights, telling a story, and driving some impact. So those are the classes I would credit the most.
That's great. Taylor, what about for you? What classes are most impactful for what you do now?
Yeah, since I still do genomics mostly, like my biostat genomics course was really, really helpful on like coalescent theory. And then I also branched out a little bit. I was like in bioinformatics courses, but then just the same thing as Hamdan was saying, like the basics of running linear models, just I just feel like any data set, you open it up, you know how to do some basic stats, you're gonna get something. You're gonna get some visualizations, you're gonna see some patterns, you're gonna get your next step right there. So just knowing how to like pull up data into R, Python, SAS, I think the really basic courses, right? Just the linear modeling courses, it's essential. Like I couldn't live without it every single day. And also I did categorical data analysis that was offered there. Yeah, I think that one's also really useful because I deal with like, different demographic groups, different age groups, right? A lot of categorical data. And so learning how to deal with those and model those has also helped a lot with kind of like, because genomics can't stand alone, I'll say. So the genomics is really helpful, but you need to match it with other data and show that there's a pattern between both, or else it doesn't work. So I think, yeah, those basic skills are so reliable. You can't live without them.
That's great. Elise, how about for you? What classes do you use every day?
Well, of course, I have to shout out your clinical trials course, Kelly, because I think that that was my first exposure to clinical trials and prompted me to go in this direction. And just kind of learning about I don't do a lot of trial design in my role, but I need to understand trial design, and so I think that was helpful background to have. And then, like Hamdan said, the capstone course, and I took another similar course that was like biostat investigations in epidemiology or something. I don't remember the exact title, but it was co-taught epid and biostats. So just anything where you are kind of given a data set and have to like plan an analysis and think about how to visualize, present the results. A lot of what I do in my work is thinking about like how do I show this data in a table, and also explaining data to folks who are non-statisticians and don't have technical backgrounds. And so I think those sorts of courses, like the project-based courses where you're doing presentations, as much as you dread the presentations, that's like the most helpful thing when you're working, especially like I do in a cross-functional setting.
Great. Yuna, how about for you? You mentioned you're using a lot of AI, so you didn't get that here now. Hopefully our students could get that eventually, but like, are there other classes that you are using, or your, people that work for you, you would think would be using?
Like the courses, tools.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely the the training, the formal training of looking at data, visualize it and thinking in data. The probability class, the intro to probability, that was really helpful. Categorical data analysis, that was helpful. Statistical inference was super helpful as well, right? One of the charter in my team is to figure out how to evaluate an LLM model. In there, we have to design evaluation data, design sample size, design metrics, And yeah, those are the fundamental. They're all very helpful.
Great. Lily, any other courses to add, or you want to highlight any specifically that you use?
I really like the course 699. I know it's required, and I'm happy that it's a required course. It's the final course all students are gonna take for in a master program, and also I think in a PhD program. It's super helpful because it gives everybody hands-on experience doing projects from end to end, and also present it at the end. And you will find that when you got interviewed or talk to people about your projects or what you have done, you can at least talk about 3, 4 projects because you have done that in that course.
That's great. Yeah. So everyone has 699 to look forward to if you're a current master's student, and not a second year currently in it. But yeah, we've heard from almost all of our alumni that is the resounding theme that 699 is super helpful. There's a question in the chat that said that asks, did any of you take Biostat 617? Lise, Lily, Hamdan, Yuna, Taylor, no. Yeah, that's a survey design class.
I took the sampling statistics class. I don't remember if that was 617 or something else, but it was co-taught through the social sciences. So
Yeah, I think
research.
that's that class. Yeah, that class.
It is that one? Okay. I
Yeah.
took it. Yeah, I took it. I think it was helpful. I remember good things about it. I remember it was more of a social science bent to it. So it was more like survey, demographic, census type of data. And yeah, I remember good things about it, but it was a while back. So I would struggle to say what exactly, but yeah, I have good vibes about that class.
Fair. That's fair. Lily learned from the lecture notes. That's great.
Yeah, I feel it's extremely helpful if you want to like do any clinical trials or like say some like look for positions in clinical departments or like say medical science or in hospitals or in pharmaceutical companies. I think like this course can be extremely useful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remembered. I worked in politics, so I did a bunch of polling. So I think that class was really helpful, teaching you how to weight the results of polls. So that's exactly, yeah, I use that very extensively.
Oh, that's a great point. I will hold off on more of my questions and see if we have a question in the audience. So either online, you can put it in the chat, or anyone in our classroom. Does anyone want to ask a question? Andre.
Is there anything in particular that motivated you towards a decision to go straight into the industry after getting your master's degree, or going further in your education to get a PhD, depending on which path you chose?
So can you hear that question? Let's see, Hamdan, for you, did you go straight into like industry from your master's, or did you work in politics first? And what made you decide to do that versus say go on to get your PhD?
Yeah, so while I was in the biostats program at Michigan, I was a research assistant in a neuroscience lab. So I actually spent 1 year in a neuroscience PhD program at the University of Chicago after graduating from Michigan. I realized very quickly it was not for me. Everyone in the program was a lot smarter than I was, and also I just really loved working with data, which is a small portion of a PhD in neuroscience, but there's a lot of biology to learn, and I still don't know what an axon is and what an action potential is. And then that was also around the time when I went to work on a political campaign, and I just loved working with data in a real world setting. And that was exactly when the field of data science just kind of exploded out of nowhere. And overnight, all of the statistician jobs were called data scientists. So right after that campaign, I just started applying, interviewing, people started reaching out to me, and kind of got very lucky by being very early in this field and have been in industry ever since.
Elise, I remember when you were a student here and having conversations with you about PhD versus a job. What made you choose going to the job?
Well, I think frankly, a big part of it was that I went directly from undergrad to grad school, and I was honestly just kind of tired of school, and I wanted to see what it was like out in the big world, not being a student. So I think that played a role. But I also was lucky enough to do some research during my time at Michigan, and I think it was super helpful. In terms of just having experience to talk about in interviews, but I think I recognized that the like research to publication process was just not for me. And some people love it, and I wasn't one of them. And so I wanted to kind of give it a try to take my skills from my master's and go see what I could do in industry. And I feel like that was the right path for me. But, you can go either way and have success either way.
Lily, what about for you? Like, what made you pursue the PhD and then jump into industry?
I was a biology student, and then I changed to biostatistics. When I was in the master program, I thought like I would just find a job after that. But because the program gave me such a good experience that I find like I'm very interested in doing research in biostatistics. So I think I will continue. And actually, even close to the end of the PhD program, I was still serious considering academic job, and I have been interviewed for several positions. But I didn't continue because I got an offer from Google, and that time I told myself, "Hey, everybody wants to go to Google. Let me see like how it goes." And so I went to industry partially out of curiosity. I still strongly believe like when I decided to do the PhD because I really like doing research, and I'm serious considering pursue a career in academia that time. So I think my suggestion is for students, if you're not quite sure about that, maybe it's not a bad idea to actually work a bit for several years. It will also make it clear for you which direction of the research you want to do. When you go back to a PhD program, it can save you some time to finding the right project to work on.
Great. There are other questions from the audience? Okay, think about them. I'll go back to my list. Yuna, for you, you're saying you're using AI and it's like hard to stay on top of that. So how are you staying on top of this, all the new technology of AI and what it can do for you? And what would you recommend to our students what skills should they have in AI if they're going out onto the job market?
Just use a lot of AI, right? Like ChatGPT, Codex, Cloud Code, but and read some of the milestone papers like InstructGPT. Anthropic has published some papers, and nowadays there are a lot of public models from China where they actually publish a lot of tech reports. Go ahead and check it out. Yeah, so just like pick and choose, like not look through all the papers. Pick some of the really important and highly influential one to take a look and test their product. Yeah. And yeah, spend lots of time. So that's the trick.
So practice, yeah. Taylor, are there other skills that you've had to learn on the job, or AI too? And how do you learn on the job, or what kind of advice would you give to our students to be able to pick up skills?
Yeah, what I'd say, I mean, I had the strong bioinformatics background, but it was human data. And now I deal with pathogens, so it's not the same at all. Genomic data that I work with. So I did have to learn on the fly. And although like I believe at UMich, everybody graduating is going to have a very strong background and going to be totally capable of learning whatever they need to learn. That's what I believe, because I was able to just using online resources and then walking into the room and not having a bloated head. Admit what you don't know and ask questions, set up meetings with experts, like especially when you're just getting started. That's one of the best ways to figure things out. I spent long periods of time trying to egotistically code solutions to problems that, with help from experts, I found I was reinventing the wheel. So ask questions. That's like my biggest advice. Also, I use AI all the time. Like yesterday, majority of my day was me and AI having a conversation and me programming, just asking, how do I do this? How do you regex this command? How do I move this data here? Like it just accelerates your coding like from A to B so fast. Like it's just not worth it to sit and try to figure out things programming wise or go through Stack Overflow anymore. So AI makes it super easy. Just like you know was saying, just play around with it, ask it different things, test out its results, and see how it goes. And then I guess the thing I'll give you is like a kind of a leg in is because we have so much data, the government, they want AI to, be working. Like it's infeasible for one analyst to figure out what's going on with all these different systems moving on. So AI is the next step. And I would advise folks to learn agents. I don't know if that's popped up. You ever heard of an AI agent? Everything AI wise is becoming agential. Even the chat GPT that you're talking to right now is functioning as not just an LLM, but an AI agent. So that's just like a leg in the door. Look up AI agents. You'll find a bunch of resources. Go on Hugging Face, learn the tutorials, learn how the models work so that you know like what you're getting from it. But then yeah, try and implement it yourself. Implement it locally too. I mean, you can do this all on your own with an Anaconda environment on a basic Windows machine. So it's really something anybody can do right now, and I would suggest everybody does it. I feel like you're just going to end up so far behind if you're not using AI to do your programming. I'm getting like 5 times as much time, I'm telling you. So please use AI, let it help you. Remember that it will give you bad code sometimes, so you need to correct it. Take it one step at a time. Maybe don't ask it to make one big thing all at once, right? Use some of your own creativity. That'll get you so far so fast.
But are students allowed to use AI in the homework and writing assignment, all that nowadays?
Are you? So it depends class by class, I assume. Yeah, I think so. Currently, there's no like university-wide rules or regulations on AI. It's really professors' prerogatives to which what they allow in class. And so I think some individuals have really embraced it and incorporated it, while others still think that kind of need to ignore it and learn the old-fashioned way and then figure out how to use it elsewise. So I think there's a mix for everyone in classes. Is that true? Yeah. Unfortunately, you're only getting me, but there are actually a lot of folks here, and I don't know how to turn the camera away. So I apologize for that. But I don't know if I can, this doesn't do anything. I don't know where the camera is for people here. Where it's that camera? How do I move that camera? I think be able to. Is there like a little remote? I don't know. We'll have Nicole see.
Oh, I see Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole's here.
Hi, Nicole.
What about Elise? What advice would you give to a student who's interested in working for a CRO? Like where do they start? What should they be thinking about?
I think this is a great example of the power of an alumni network. And I think that's always a good place to start, is kind of connecting with alumni on LinkedIn who have roles that are kind of similar to what you're looking for. And I find that generally people are really receptive to having a chat and answering your questions. And that can kind of give you an idea of, is this the direction I really want to go? Um, and as well as like giving you an idea of how to what you can highlight like in an interview or an application, what's going to be important to that role. I would say like from a CRO perspective, there's such a wide range. Like IQVIA is massive and global. And then you also have smaller, more specialized CROs. And so like kind of doing your industry research to understand the whole span of what that looks like and where you want to fit into that, I think is a good place to start for CROs, and then just having some background knowledge about clinical trials, whether that's taking a course, reading some papers, doing like some LinkedIn learnings. There are so many resources out there to have some background knowledge to be able to bring up in an interview or ask more specific questions when you have those alumni chats. I think that's where I would start.
Really great. Yeah.
I actually have a question about IQVIA. And then so that I know that it's a really globally famous CRO. And do you have also in-house research team?
What do you mean by research team?
You mean like statistical methodology?
Yeah, in-house. So not depend on by customers and just in-house IQVIA, because the new statistic method is also important. I think
Yeah. Um, so there are a lot of different teams of statisticians at IQVIA. I don't know if there's one specifically dedicated to researching statistical methodologies, but we do have like a study design team which works on um, like different study design methodologies, sample size calculations, and kind of advancing those within the field. And I know that team does some publications, so that's, I guess, more of a research focus. And I know those folks also will interact with like regulatory bodies like the FDA frequently to figure out like what's the latest guidance from FDA statisticians, and then how do we bring that into to helping our clients design clinical trials. But I do think a lot of the work that statisticians do within IQVIA is um, client service facing. And I will say we also have a big team of statisticians and epidemiologists that do real world evidence at IQVIA, and that's like totally separate from what I do. But I know there are Michigan alumni in that group. If you're interested in that direction, I'm sure they would be happy to speak with you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have one more.
Yeah.
So that so all of you that these days I heard that collaboration is very important, and especially that cross-functional teams everywhere has a cross-functional team. And I asked you guys also work with the cross-functional team, or then how which expert you are working with, and what is the importance we can, what kind of skill we have to prepare for this kind of cross-functional team.
Okay, so Hamdan, we start with you. Do you work with, non-statisticians? And if so, what are they? And what kind of skills do you need to work with them?
Yeah, I would say the majority of people I work with are non-statisticians. They're non-technical people. I think that's probably it's a very important skill to learn how to communicate complicated statistical concepts to non-statisticians. It comes up in interviews, but also comes up in the job itself. So even basic things like how would you explain regression to your mom? Right? It's like, oh, you take a bunch of kids, you measure their height, you measure how much their allowance is, and then you plot it, and then you're like, oh, that's a line, that's regression, right? Again, obviously, it's a little more complicated than that, but just knowing how to explain stuff like that, I think it's really important. So I would get as much practice as you can with that, and just like work as you're at the university. If you have opportunities to collaborate with folks in different departments or to work on projects or anything you can do that can get you working with data with non-technical people, I think that'll be a great benefit throughout your career.
Lily, how about for you? What type of people are you collaborating with, and what skills do you feel like are really useful there?
I work with almost all kinds of people in the company. Like we work with product managers who are from very business background, know any or very little technical skill, technical training. So I also work closely with software engineers who are completely code, like technical oriented. They don't know that much about the business side. So data scientist sometimes is playing a role like a bridge the business side and the more technical side. So in my opinion, it's like you have to understand who are the audience and who you're talking with when you phrase the terminologies or the descriptions in your communication. It's actually extremely, extremely important, and it's getting more and more important once you get into a more senior role. So I was thinking, so again, like I feel like cost like $6.99 or your research assistant roles could be extremely helpful because you will have a chance to talk to people who are not necessarily as familiar as what you are doing and how to explain to them and make them understand and convinced by you. I think those are extremely important in your career.
Great. Yuna, you have a more managerial role, so I'm curious, how would our students learn about opportunities, internship or jobs, at Amazon or similar places, and what would make someone stand out to hire?
So we do have this Amazon.jobs website where you can go and look for posted jobs. I mean, there are other jobs that are like not posted, where you can, as Elise was saying, like reach out to your alumni in LinkedIn, your your own network to see if there are opportunities out there. And what makes a candidate stand out, hands-on ability and the curiosity, tells people apart, right? And also like being able to deep dive into the problem itself. The Amazon, like I think a lot of the tech company have this, structured interview process. It's different for different companies. In Amazon, there's something called like leadership, which is a pretty big important part for the interview process here. So you can read it up and learn about it if you're curious. And I think you can talk to Lily about the Google interview process. Different company might be a little bit different.
Lily, do you have any thoughts on like, yeah, what would make a strong candidate, a strong resume, or a strong candidate for Google?
Yeah, I would say like definitely there's some differences, but Amazon and Google, I think they share some similarities. The hiring is usually they have you submit it to not by teams, but submitted to the company. And it's an application by roles. And I think usually we treat each candidate pretty fairly. Like we won't say, okay, we only look at you and not look at other people. But definitely with internal reference will be very helpful, because usually it means you will be looked at by the recruiter more timely. And I also find like sometimes you reach out to the alumni can be helpful, because it will give you some information how good, how bad, how the culture of the team is. So that will also helpful in the later phase that when you do the team matching.
Really great. So reiterating the importance of networking, right? Of that alumni networking, using that alumni network that we have. Okay, well, we're almost out of time, but I want to give everyone one more opportunity to, I'll go around to ask you, what's one thing that current students should start doing now to set themselves up for success? Either in terms of graduation or job searching, or thinking about the next step. So Taylor, what advice do you have for our current students?
I think my biggest piece of advice, this is going to sound kind of not super technical, more general, but it's just to build a consistent routine and never give up. Because like the world keeps changing, right? Like there's so many things we see going on that we didn't think would happen in this day and age. So build a routine that keeps you balanced. When you put in an application, when you talk to somebody, if it doesn't go well, don't take that to heart. Like try to constantly improve yourself. So the biggest advice I say is have a strong heart, understand that, the world's going through a lot, people are going through a lot. You might not get success right away, but you can find it. Believe it. I've had some moments where I didn't think I'd end up where I am today. So UMich was a great step on that. You're there. You guys are working hard. I know you're working hard if you're there. So just keep putting in the effort, build a consistent routine and a consistent mindset that tells you that you're great and that you can do it. And that's going to get you a lot farther than I think the technical general. People will feel that vibe from you, trust me. So that's my advice.
Great, thank you. Yuna, your advice for current students?
I think Taylor did a really good job. The positive attitude, stay curious and work hard. Those are like very important things. And yeah, so I also noticed that other things like communication, like try to like explain your idea and your, project more often than you want. Like this is very important. When you get into the workforce and industry, you have to do a lot of explanation, like writing about your idea, presenting about it. Those are super, super important. The last thing I think is like sometimes as a student, there's this tendency to just focus on your grade, your course, do something else, like enjoy yourself while you're in the school.
That's great advice. Thank you. I'm done. Advice for our students?
Yeah, I would say find what you're passionate about when it comes to working with data. Like, no, I don't mean like what machine learning library you're passionate about. I mean like in the world, like what are you passionate about? And try to use data to answer those questions, because I think that's really where you'll shine. So even when I was at the university, I took a social network analysis course, and I built a social network analysis of all of the wars in human history. And it was like all of the pairs of wars, and it was this massive wild plot. And it was a lot of fun because I was really passionate about that topic. And then later on, there's this project on rappers with the biggest vocabularies that's out there. Like there's so many fun data projects out there. And I did a lot of work in emojis. Even when I was at Facebook, I co-invented emoji machine learning. So on your phone, when you type in a word, it shows you an emoji. I was part of that team that came up with that. So just like find what you're passionate about and find data and just play around with it. And if you make it fun, it'll motivate you. It'll make it easier to keep going. Because otherwise it's very hard to learn these skills in the abstract. But if you focus on a project in an area you're passionate about, it'll be much easier for you to learn and stand out and set yourself apart.
That's great advice. Thank you. Elise, how about what advice do you have for our students?
I think that the most important thing that you learn in school is how to learn. And so, like, technical skills can be taught, right? So have the audacity to apply for a job that gets you excited, even if you don't meet all of the check boxes, because you know how to learn. That's what you're doing in school, and you're pushed time and time again to learn new things in a time crunch. And that's what you have to do in industry. And so you have examples of what you've done in grad school that shows that you can do that. And so if you have, if you can demonstrate that you're willing to learn, that you are a good communicator and a person that people can trust to get something done well, then the technical skills, you have a good foundation and the rest of them will come. And so I think my biggest advice, and advice that I probably could have taken more when I was applying for jobs, is yeah, have the audacity to apply for a job that you may not think that you're qualified for, because you know how to learn. And that's the most important thing.
That's great. Lily, the last advice stands with you. What kind of advice would you give our students?
So firstly, I want to make a big plus on Alice's suggestion, like keep learning, because I didn't know SQL. I barely know Python when I started, but a few years later, like everything is fine. And so keep learning. Rule of thumb, like this is the most important suggestion. Second thing, I want to give advice to students, especially now. So the job market has ups and downs. It's usually, cycles. So many years ago, we see like there was down and then it's up. So I would suggest the students be patient, and it's not like, okay, don't be afraid of rejections. Keep trying, and so if you keep learning and you reach out to alumni, and you will find that Michigan Wolverines are everywhere. Inside the company, in my company, I've seen many people are from Michigan. So reach out to them and get use of the resources from the alumni network. Eventually, you will land a job.
That's so great. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to learn from you and to hear about, your success, and how Michigan played a very small role in that. So thank you so much for joining us.